Did the minute, would somebody, did anyone read the minutes? So they could make a motion to approve them.
I
So
read them
moved.
and I moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So the next item is, before we get on to all the rankings and everything, it seemed to me that last time we were talking very seriously about putting money into the Underhill Center sidewalk because of the fact that it's something that could be done. And I think that we need to revisit that after we got some information from Brad. So did everybody review the letter from Brad as to how much it's going to cost to put in that section of the sidewalk? Nope. So
There was an email from Brad that, because we went back and asked Brad what his understanding was, because it was, okay, the $50,000 was for engineering and some drawings. And I said, well, what's it going to cost to build it? Can you give us some numbers? And he came back with like over $500,000. And for the section between, just to be clear, the section between Underhill Central School and Mills and Moore Park, right? That small section down the hill.
oh, it was just to the park?
I think it is. I don't have it in
Okay.
front of me, but anyway, so, and clearly, so the 50,000 would get us the engineering study, but the question is, that I was under the impression, I guess, when I was chatting about it with Brad and everyone early on, I thought for a small amount of money, we could get this section done and, built really fast, and it wasn't going to be a whole mess with right-of-ways. And, but now I'm concerned that maybe that's different. So that's my 2 cents. That's all I.
May I make an observation and question here? I've been concerned for a long time about actually being able to locate that sidewalk through the rather steep bank section. I mean, I think there's going to be a fair amount of engineering and work involved in doing that. I do not think this is going to be a hugely cheap project to do. I think it's going to be a fairly expensive project to do. That said, I do think, and I think the town is also saying it, this is an important project to do. And just because it's going to cost us some money doesn't mean we shouldn't pursue it, I think. One of the questions I would like to ask, though, is that for this engineering part of it, that's the kind of thing that CCRPC, MPO often will do as part of their work program. And I don't know if anyone has looked into that. I would be willing to look into it if not. But it seems to me that it would be something well worth pursuing, and would free up an extra $50,000 for whatever we wanted to do, or 50,000 minus whatever match we needed to come up with for that.
Well, we're getting back to this thing about approving money and making sure that this money is going to be used by a certain date. And the discussion last time was we were under the impression that this sidewalk could be built by that date. I mean, the actual cement laid down, not just an engineering study or anything. But Brad's letter certainly doesn't lend itself to saying that this could be done in that period of time.
But that doesn't mean something can't be done. A
Speak
start
up.
can be made.
What?
A start can be made. I don't think when we discussed proposals of the entire sidewalk, the grand sidewalk from all the way from Casey's Hill to the flats, nobody thought that the ARPA money would cover all of that. And there were ways to use the ARPA money to make concrete steps in that direction, be it engineering, buying culverts, whatever.
I agree. I think it's up to the committee to decide how much money do you want to put towards the sidewalk and block that off. And for now, make that a placeholder and say, this is how much ARPA dollars we are going to recommend goes towards the sidewalk, and then move forward on your list. Because again, it has to be committed by the end of 2024, which is over a year and a half. And it doesn't have to be spent until the end of 2026. So I agree with Nori that you'd be able to get done, whether there's matching grants or CCRPC money, it doesn't matter. The money will be spent. Whether it's to pay for the matches or something else, like Nori said, if we get to the end of 2026 and the sidewalk's not built, the select board can decide to go buy, something else with it for the sidewalk. I forwarded you guys all that email.
No, you mean Brad's letter?
I thought it was
No.
just asking him about just.
No, but that's. Yeah.
Because I went running
So-
downstairs after that and said, Brad, wait, I thought, if money was set aside for this, it could get done really fast, really quick, and you'd have this whole section done like this summer.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, that 50,000 was just for, I'm like, oh, okay. And then he came back with this. Because my fear is if you guys commit to saying and recommending, you put the money into the engineering study. Meanwhile, Nick hopefully is going to get this other
Yeah.
grant for the bigger project. But my fear is we sink 50,000 into, the 50,000 into the engineering studies, and then we know we have a $500,000 bill that there's no way we're going to be able to put through on a regular budget in the next 5 years. Looking at our capital projections without a sidewalk, unless we were to bond it. And that's certainly not the job of this committee or even me to make a decision like that. So it seems like you guys need to figure out how much of this, whatever it is, 633,000 or whatever it is, 655, do we want to commit to the sidewalk or recommend that? And then we can get more information about it, I guess.
So there's the other proposal for the match.
Put your thing on.
There's the other proposal for the match to the, because like the thing that the decision that happens in the summer, right, would require us to put forward some money and then.
That's in the budget, 16,000.
Oh, so that's already there. Okay, so that doesn't need to be ARPA money.
No.
Okay. So, I mean, based on this, it seems like the 50,000 is the only thing that's reasonable. But I agree with you. It seems like feasibility studies and stuff have been done in the past and then nothing actually gets built. So,
We certainly know that from a sidewalk in the other part of town.
So one
I
of the,
don't think as a practical matter, that it would be a problem to sort of set aside, at least mentally, that 50,000 with the understanding that if we can't bring about some sidewalk movement with it, that we could recommit it to another piece of the project, to another piece.
we may need to consider setting aside $300,000 or $400,000 to recommend that that's set aside for the sidewalk project, so that the sidewalk project actually gets done. Maybe not this summer, but the following summer, I think is more the idea that we're worried about. Is to use this money for it. That's sort of how it would have to go. And then consider, our top 10 or 12 or whatever it is of the rest of the projects.
I agree with Jill.
Any reactions to that?
I agree with Jill. And I want to remind everybody that this ARPA 17 was just a placeholder for all the ARPA sidewalk suggestions, one of which was to spend all the money that wasn't allotted to something else on the sidewalk, which conceivably could be something like what Jill just said, and then let the select board worry about it if it seems like they can't get it spent in the right time. And since Brad tells us how much this first piece will cost, I'm more confident than ever that we can spend this amount, a large amount of money in a hurry, because we can build most of that sidewalk with it. And we can probably get grants. All the other sidewalk was mainly, I don't know if mainly is the right word, was substantially funded by grants and other funding besides the town.
So I'm not sure what dollar amount you ended up with in your conversation.
In which conversation was that?
What you just said, you went out, so
So the idea was one extreme is to say, okay, $50,000 or something like that. The other extreme is to take the sidewalk last, since it got the highest ratings, and say, how much do we allot to all these other projects we want to fund, and how much is left of the 655,904, and give all that to the sidewalk.
Well, one thing that's apparent is that we could spend the entire 655 or 656 roughly without including any sidewalk money. So that doesn't necessarily resolve that.
That was why I suggested a top 10, top 15, 20, whatever it is, number of projects, because we basically have a ranking on them now from all of us when you add it together. We can look at the top ones and be like, we're going to do these up to this point, and whatever's left that's not spent in those projects, the top 10, for example, then the rest of that goes to the sidewalk project.
well, I see your point about that, but what if we go through the other and there's only $50,000 left for the sidewalk? I don't think that's what you're thinking about, is to have a small amount.
Well, we could burn that bridge when we get to it. Let's see how much we want to spend on the other things.
Well, I
To
think
Jill's comment,
Sorry?
just quickly, thank you. To
Sure.
Jill's comment, in the ratings, if we go down to 2.5, 2.5 is basically strong support, 2.5 or less. And there were only down 17 ratings that got that. The rest were up above 2.5 into the threes. So I'm not sure how many of the ones we rated we want to fund.
And keep in mind that of those that are on that top 17, you've got things that are joint projects between us and Jericho. And it would be my guidance to the committee, of course, it's your decision, that we fund our share of those projects with a request to Jericho to hit their number. And then for these organizations to commit to using this money for what they have requested, that it's not just a donation in kind to the library or the fire department. This money is intended for the use that they requested.
So what if, I'm having trouble then with the Jericho project. So what if we fund our 40% of, let's say, the park, the grading at the park, and Jericho doesn't fund it? are we saying then that we're going to take that money back from the park?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what I'm proposing.
But I mean, when would we take it back? I mean, Jericho can fund this whenever they want. You know, their select board is just choosing the projects that they want to do, and they haven't committed to those. They did tell me, the select board did tell me that they really thinks the park project was a good one, and that would be one they could. I could agree with that.
But this committee's job is to just make the recommendations to the select board. So you, again, can put together your list and you can say, our recommendation is that we fund the library, the whatever, at the 39%, plus these projects, and the balance of that towards the sidewalk. I mean, that could very well be what your recommendation is to the select board. With this being an understanding, because we have been given an indication through Brad and through Abbott, their town administrator, that they are interested in funding these projects.
Can I make a suggestion? I don't see any reason why we can't fund them conditionally. That is conditioned on Jericho coming through with their side of the bargain.
Be a bit like a house closing, that nobody gets any money until everybody's got their money on the table.
That's life.
Any unused funding in that scenario could just get diverted back to the sidewalk fund.
The thing I worry about with the sidewalk though is, let's say you, at the end of this process, you have 200,000 or something that you can put towards the sidewalk. To me, that's not really getting you anywhere. Like, that's not going to be able to be used by the end of the deadline because of the fact that you can't just build like 10 feet of sidewalk. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to get grants and stuff. So I think what Brad's saying is that in order to get funding to build the sidewalk another way, you're going to need to have this years-long process of getting grants and such. Like, so I'm thinking you would need to, like, let's say you think it's going to cost like $500,000. We're saying for ARPA, we'll give $200,000. It seems like they're going to have to drum up another 300,000, which is also not feasible for the town to do that. So I don't know what the right answer here is, but I'm not sure how useful that is to say that we're going to give 150,000, 200,000, something that you know is not enough to actually build it, to put towards the sidewalk.
But would it
I
be
don't know.
enough to entice the residents to cough up the rest? If we say, hey, we've got the 200 here, we're going to get grant money, can we put 200 on the ballot? I don't know. I'm going to go close the door.
I was going to say, we just dropped 100,000 at the drop of a hat at town meeting.
So let's sort of move ahead and continue the discussion. But first off is on the agenda that Jen put together, there is a request from the fire department that came in late. And so number one, I think we should make a decision about whether we want to consider it at all. Now, is right.
And it was attached to your agenda.
So in other words, you can probably describe it better, Jen.
Well, it came in after the fact in an email, and it has to do with some updated technology that our fire department was just made aware of. So they decided to see if they could squeak this one in with their other requests. And I said, well, the time period had closed, but since it was the fire department, I would bring it to your attention and didn't want to just, slam the door on the fire department. That's what I
I
know.
feel like the fire department could be handled the way some of these other things are handled, in that you just say, we'll give you, I mean, what are they asking for here, 3,000 or something?
Yep, 4,000.
4,000, and then I forget what the other ones were, but some amount of money to use in the best way possible, right? Like it doesn't, I also feel this way about the energy committee ones. Like, I don't know how to rank those relative to each other. You know what I mean? I honestly don't know which of those is more important. And I would send it back to those groups. Like for the fire department, what is the most important thing?
Prioritize.
Yeah. And then we could fund the most important project. Like, I don't think you want to fund all of these energy committee ones. Obviously, they didn't rank that high here. My rankings were similar. Sorry, I didn't get them into you before this was printed, but, you know, I feel like you could say, I don't know, look at roughly what the dollar value was, and say we could give $10,000 to the fire department for upgrades, you know, or something like that, for as you see.
And we are allowed to just give money in kind without specifying. That is an option. So,
So
Well, you
they
could say-
still
or
have
you
to
could say-
spend it by a certain amount of time.
no, we have to spend it.
Yeah.
We
So
write
if
the
the
check to the
towns,
department, it's gone.
Oh, interesting.
So they could just put it in their bank account?
including to
thought it had-
committees, town committees? Can we
I don't
allocate
think
it?
town committees would qualify that way.
Okay.
It
'cause,
has
you
to
know,
be out
that's the-
of, it has to be out off the books of the town of Underhill. So we can't have it in a separate fund. We can't have even in a restricted fund. It has to be out of our coffers. But if we give a donation to the, Jericho Underhill Food Shelf, which is, or one of these requests is to help fund their budget, we're not going to know whether or not they actually do it if we write them a check. I mean, we're assuming they're using it. So once the town of Underhill writes that check, it's gone. It doesn't matter what happens after that.
So then let's talk about the sidewalk again. The ARPA money for the sidewalk goes to the town of Underhill. But after we give it to the town of Underhill, from the town of Underhill, we don't know if they're going to spend it on the sidewalk or not. Or they don't have to spend it on the sidewalk?
No, the town of Underhill has to write a check out of our checking account
That's right, but
to the vendor or to the other organization. So,
yeah, but what about this for the sidewalk? Who's the project? The sidewalk project is the town of Underhill.
no, it's going to be whoever the vendor is. It's not going to be our crew. It's going to be the paving company or the engineers or the architects. It's not likely going to be our employees. It's going to be to buy materials and sand and gravel and pay right-of-ways and things like that.
Well,
So as long as those
So-
checks are written before the end date, we're fine.
Leaves open the question of whether or not somebody can pull together an Underhill Side Center Sidewalk Corporation to receive the funds.
I'm sure we wouldn't be the first town to do something like that, Shell corporations are really rare.
Never heard of them.
okay, then, so are we in agreement that this latest request from the fire department can just be merged in with the other request from the fire department? Okay.
The repeater is 11,655 and the. Yes.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so that's the other thing is for those joint ones, it does seem like, we should go to Jericho and like, this was our ranking of, which of these projects.
Emily, could you turn on your mic, please? I can't hear you.
We could put a ranking to Jericho of which of the joint projects we felt were more important, and with a contingency, we're willing to fund these projects, some of these projects, whatever, if they felt similarly that those were priorities for the money,
I agree.
Okay, so
And we could invite them to our next meeting.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a good idea.
We can talk about it on the record.
Well, because, well, part of me feels like these things, like the fire department's different, but the things that are physically located in Jericho, to me, just naturally fall lower priority than things that are physically located in Underhill, only because I know there's a separate pot that's bigger in Jericho, you know what I mean? But I understand that we use these things, and so, but I don't know, I think that a conversation with Jericho would make a lot of sense as to like how much, for example, I mean, like that one doesn't need to be the full amount necessarily, You can fund a few of their sub-projects.
okay, then let's move on to going through the proposal in ranked order. So obviously, there were two that averaged, everyone agreed were ones. So the sidewalk and the town hall improvements. So based on that, what's your favor for how much money to give for the town hall improvements? The full 100,000 that was asked for or something less? No opinions?
Jennifer, what I would ask you about, does it make any sense to do less? I mean, or
Yeah.
where does that get us?
That was what I was just about to say. Like, what do you do if you give 50,000? Like,
Then the town select board would have to decide which are their priorities on the list. I mean, we made the list. I went and got quotes for everything. And then we based it on that. Are you having trouble down there? Yes. Okay. Okay. I'm going to excuse myself and run down and see if I can help. No problem. So that, I think if you say less, then they have to look at the quotes that I got and decide which ones they're going to do or not do, or push to another year and put in a budget.
yeah, okay.
That's my opinion.
Yeah,
The select board can also decide whatever amount they choose too. It's not necessarily, they're not tied to our recommendation.
yeah.
Right, although I think we should try to do it as well as we can. With the idea that our recommendation would be the one that is followed, as opposed to, I mean, they can change it, obviously.
Well, I agree. I think we have to assume that they're going to agree with us.
I would have liked to have gotten a little bit more of an opinion from Jennifer if she also, because I don't really know what all these improvements are and, where they kind of fall into I mean, it sounds like a lot of it is important, but, does she feel like that it would be something that could, I mean, is there something sort of not quite as valuable or that would make sense to get rid of? I just don't know the details of it well enough to start chipping away at an amount. I mean, right now, to me, it's almost like a unit. They've got some improvements that need to be made, and this is how much they're going to cost.
Okay, so let's wait till Jennifer comes back and she can review what that is. I think last time she sort of gave a brief overview that it would take care, the $100,000 is taking care of the room I'm sitting in right now, which I'm not sure what it's called.
We got
A great room.
The original proposal, which is number 27, has a detailed budget. And it doesn't say how much of it is this room, but you can sort of figure it out. But it details a lot of stuff. So we can, as somebody said, chip away at it if we feel like it. But it's not like, here's $100,000 and we're not sure what we're giving it to you for.
Okay, we'll let Jennifer give us more details on that. So the next one is the food shelf. The $11,500 is the amount that the treasurer gave me after so she was she was confused as to how much to ask for. And so in discussion with it, she said the number that I was planning on was 11,500. And I said, well, that's a good number then, if that's what you think. So my feeling on the 11,500 was the food shelf is a 3-town entity. So I was good. I was suggesting to myself that we do 1/3 of the 11,500.
Sounds good to me.
What are the 3 towns, Bill?
I'm sorry? Oh,
The 3 towns are,
Essex, Jericho, Underhill.
yeah, I would say at most a third if that's but I mean, again, are they going to, it's a fairly small dollar amount. Are they going to get support from these other guys or what's the story?
Well, that certainly is up to them, but I told, when I talked to the treasurer about this, I said, if you want the whole $11,500, then you're going to have to also talk to Jericho and Essex to get some money from them. That
Gotcha.
I certainly cannot commit that Underhill is going to fund the whole thing.
Okay. I think that's a reasonable
So,
approach.
I think in this case, that will, no matter how much we give them, is going to help them. It may
Right.
not solve their whole budget problem, but
Now, in the ranking that I came up with, well, I guess it doesn't, it's not necessarily the case because they're the same number, but mine showed up the Harvest Crossing request before the food shelf came up, but
Would you repeat your comment, please?
oh, just that we seem to have skipped over the Harvest Crossing discussion. Any discussion of the housing?
I don't
well,
know that we're all looking at the same list. I
That could be.
was having trouble opening your list, Michael, so I don't have that in front of me. And I'm not
Oh,
sure
okay.
exactly what the folks
That's
in
the
the
one
room.
I'm
Okay,
working off of.
okay, so here's the thing. Emily, you put some numbers in and then you changed some. Is that right?
Emily, are you saying anything?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I had put half of them in and then I had to drive home and I put the rest of them in, but they were not all captured here. So I put them all into the master, but they're not into the ratings. Not
Yes.
all of them
Okay.
are in the ratings. So now I'm thinking I should just delete mine out of the rating one.
So
So I added a copy that includes my rating, but it doesn't really matter. I don't think it changes.
okay, so here's what I did, Emily. Just
Yeah.
tonight when I got here,
Yeah.
I took your ratings for the first, I don't know, the first few of them
Yeah.
and put those in to average them. And that's the order that I'm going through.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
why some of them it really didn't change the
It doesn't
order
change, yeah.
very much except moving one up and down and everything. So
Gotcha.
what I was planning to do was to go through all the ratings that were less than 2. And with Emily's, it didn't change any of those. So we may be a little bit out of order, but they're all the top less than 2.
10-4. Gotcha.
I just confirmed that too, because I resorted them with my full rankings and everything is pretty much the same. That's what I was just looking at. But yes, they might go 1 or 2
Yep.
away.
So the next one that I have is from the Energy Committee for the Town Hall electrical upgrades. So do you want to speak to that anymore, Michael?
I don't believe so. I think that that's one of the critical things that need to be done, no matter what we do. We don't have adequate service there. If we want to add any capability over the years, it just really needs to be upgraded. That's a foundational kind of thing that we need to do there. It's almost should be in with the town hall improvements. And these were the numbers that some folks came up with, Jennifer and so on. It doesn't seem like a terribly expensive proposition.
The rec committee's view on the town hall is, well, the rec committee, so on the recreation committee, we have like jurisdiction over certain things in town, right? Like Moore Park, Casey's Hill, the town pond. And our view has been to like maximize the few resources that Underhill actually has, right? Like, because there's not a whole lot here in Underhill, but like there's a few things that the town has control over and that we should take care of those things. So that's where the logic was behind the town pond improvements. For example, we shouldn't have this eyesore, beat up fence and dilapidated tennis courts like in town. It's like our only park in town. We should have, take care of it, like upgrade it. And I think the rec committee, I know, feels really strongly about the town hall because this is like one of our only building, maybe our only building, like, and that it should be taken care of. It shouldn't be,
No.
not taken care of, and it seems like this amount is completely reasonable to take care of this building.
I agree with that, what Michael said and what Emily said.
So does anyone else have a comment other than agreeing to fund this at 15,000? I like that. Made a decision. So the next one is the, this is the Underhill Central School that Nick Tanner put in, number 10. Luke, you talked to that before. Do you want to refresh us on that?
Sure. So this is the partnership with the Brewster River Mountain Bike Club and Underhill Central School to clean up and improve the existing trails on the UCS property, making them more accessible and bikeable. And then they have a second long-term plan to add some more biking specific features and some trails and paths that could be utilized by handicap accessible equipment, things like that. But this is just for the first half of that, which kind of along the lines of what Emily spoke to. It's improving some of the existing resources that are in Underhill and kind of cleaning up that partial trail network at UCS. And UCS is fully on board with this as well.
Go ahead.
So I feel like there's a number of proposals here that have to do with creating more infrastructure for kids, right? Like, so there's play structures at the town pond, there's the rebound wall, there's the disc golf course, there's the this trail. And I think my personal opinion is this seems like a really relatively low expense to get a like new opportunity for kids in town, and the fact that they have like additional funding and a reliable reputation of getting things done, like makes me think that that's money well spent, and that you provide like a new recreation opportunity for all the kids in town, or at least the ones who enter, who have access to the school grounds, I guess. For like relatively little money versus adding a play structure for $100,000 or $250,000, right? So That's my feeling on that.
I like the idea too. I just, by virtue of the fact that it's going in on school property, we don't really control how it's going to get handled or kept up or anything after that, as I recall. That's completely gone over to the school department now. Is that an issue for us at all?
Their long-term plan for upkeep is to manage that all through the mountain bike club. The mountain bike club manages a pretty large existing trail network already. They have regular volunteer days over the summer that are packed to the gills with volunteers ready to maintain trail. So, barring a huge cultural change in the Underhill community's interest in mountain biking, I think there'll be plenty of volunteer power organized through skilled people at BRBMC to maintain this.
Yeah, I agree with that. They have a great reputation of being able to maintain.
So what time frame were they planning to use the $18,000? Is this like a long-term
This
or,
summer,
oh, this is, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, Nick is a friend of mine and he's basically said they can go, they can go right away.
mhm. They'll
Good.
really just have to line it up with not impacting school programming, but they can get started as soon as the ground's ready for trail work.
And the check is written.
I will add too that the school has a after-school program called Kids on Bikes. I don't know if this came up before, but that they currently ride on private property. That's, they've gotten permission to ride on property, but this has gained a lot of traction. This Kids on Bikes, there's a lot of parent support for this kids mountain biking, and they currently have to ride up Pleasant Valley to this private property. They've gotten special permission. It's not the greatest mountain bike trails for little kids to learn how to mountain bike.
So does anyone have an objection to funding it at 18,000?
Not
Okay.
I.
The next one is the Mills Riverside Park, which is the one that we have sort of discussed before. But this is the one to improve the parking area, that whole area, including the road coming in and going out and stuff. And to, especially the portion there where the parking for the farmer's market, there's that little drop off that goes down to the other to take care of all of that.
I think it was a well-structured proposal originally, and it seems like a valuable thing to do. And if we can get Jericho to fund their side of it, it's not a whole lot of money, and I think we should do it.
So how about we put down 40%? I will contact the Jericho Select Board that we're agreeing to this and asking them for their commitment. If they don't want to give their commitment, then we can decide what to do after that.
I think that's an
Okay.
excellent approach.
So the next one is the garden upgrades at the Underhill Central School.
I have a little more info on that too. I've been in touch with the PTO president who submitted that proposal. And I asked them to kind of give me a few priorities between the garden project and the playground project. Like, what would they most want to do? I didn't, hint our hint our play too much, but I was kind of assuming we weren't going to give them $300,000 for both of these. So their biggest priorities with both those proposals combined are a new fence for the garden, and then sunshades and some more handicap accessible playground equipment for the play structure. So my personal feeling is I would like to fund a improvement and revamp of the garden. I think if we pull out the greenhouse that they had suggested, that will drop the price to probably $2 or $3 grand, if that, and still allow them to put in a new fence and have a little bit of money to upgrade the raised beds and make it a much more usable space.
So is this something that they have planned to do this summer? Or do you know, Luke?
Depends on funding. They did not give a concrete timeline on when they were planning to complete it.
Is your feeling that if we gave them the funding, that they would do it this summer?
I have no feeling on that. I think if we gave them enough to improve it, but not put in the greenhouse, that makes it, a 2-day job instead of probably a several-day job. They were waiting on estimates from a fence contractor. They hadn't fully received those yet. But it seems like a pretty quick turnaround project to do this if we
Luke.
provided the funding.
Question, Luke. If they did not include the greenhouse in that, but you say they are looking for some improvements to a play structure in addition to the other garden improvements, is that what I'm hearing?
I was viewing both of the PTO submitted proposals, the one for the garden and the one for the playground, kind of as linked. And of all of those things, all of the things that they submitted in both of those proposals, their biggest priorities are the fence for the garden, sunshades for the playground, for parts of the playground, and accessibility features for the playground as well. So of those two proposals combined, those are the biggest priorities.
Now, would that be covered by the 22,000, or do we have an estimate for that, or what?
We have a estimate for every piece of playground equipment in their initial proposal. I haven't had the time to go through yet and pull out like how much of that is the sunshades and handicap accessible stuff. But by far the biggest expense in that was the brand new play structure, which was multiple tens of thousands of dollars. I think that structure on its own was close to $100,000. So if we pulled that out,
But so it almost,
reducing the cost.
does it make sense to get a single restructured request from them?
That's what I've asked
Or-
for. I think they just have to wait for recurring PTO meetings to finalize it. So it's been a little bit slow, but they're working on submitting a consolidated one. I would expect, based on the priorities they gave me, that consolidated one will probably be for somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30,000, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, the UCS PTO is meeting right now, actually. No, I'm on the PTO also, but they are on actually, I think they meet virtually now, but
So if we just kind of mentally set aside this request right now, that kind of is the ballpark of what we think they're going to be looking for, and we're thinking we will be funding what they need out of that.
That's my estimate based on the priorities they shared and, really pulling out the greenhouse and the play structure, which were the two highest cost items in both of those proposals.
it seems like a reasonable approach to take, and we'll wait on their consolidated entry to finalize it. This seems like a reasonable approach to me.
So how about we put the $22,000 in for a placeholder right now so we can have an idea of how much money we're going to fund for this first part.
Yep,
I have
I
a
like that
question
idea.
about how stuff is handled at the school versus the town, because, there was a request from the rec committee to put playground equipment. So we have the like hideous broken swing set at the town pond, which the rec committee has wanted to replace that with like a legitimate piece of recreation equipment that is safe and, and it's on here, but it ranked much lower. But the thing about the town pond is that that's not like a school kids only, that is really town land. So I don't know if it would make sense if you were going to put money into playgrounds, for example, would you put that piece of playground equipment at the school where you already have playground equipment, or try to put it on our town land at the town pond, right? So that's what, I don't know the answer to this. Like, I have little kids, I'm all for playground equipment, but I don't know what the answer is to that, and how, like, obviously at some point these play structures at these schools need to be replaced normally.
Right.
Where does the money come from that? And I mean, obviously there's a process for that. I just don't know what it is. Whereas like the only way there'll be playground equipment at the town pond is if like the town approves it in the budget, right? So to me, those are like different
Pools of money.
Yeah, and maybe it makes more sense, put a piece of playground equipment on town land than on school land, but I don't know.
I had some of the same thoughts, Emily, and, thinking about the size of our town, also thinking about the hope that, eventually the town pond is going to be hopefully a short walk by sidewalk away from the playground at UCS, right? And my view was that contributing some money to a playground structure at the school actually kind of gives the town a bit of an out for future costs in terms of maintenance, because the school district is going to be responsible for maintaining that. And in terms of access, the vast majority of kids who are interested in accessing, who would be interested in accessing the UCS playground can do it outside of school hours. And during school hours, the vast majority of those kids are at UCS. Not everybody, obviously, but to me, that seemed like an actually pretty, I was thinking about wanting to prioritize structures and play equipment there at the school. And I was thinking about Town Pond as a place that's a little less developed. Certainly there could be many opinions on that, but I was thinking about the whole area's recreational equipment as kind of a unit.
Yeah, I think it makes sense so long as it's the play equipment at the school is available to the entire community. I think that's what people with little kids complain about, is because they have to work around the school schedule to play there. But
Yeah.
but I personally like take my kids to all the school playgrounds, even if my kids don't go to school there. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying though.
But this discussion has nothing to do with the garden upgrades, does it?
It has to do with prioritizing where the money is going to be spent at UCS.
Oh, between,
Like
okay.
between like, so we started approaching on playground enhancements, which are shades and handicap accessible playground equipment, right? So that's where I was going with that.
Other comments?
I was wondering if the accessibility question was considered or included in the playground structure that was being considered for the town pond.
That's, I'm going to say no, not necessarily. I think that the decision hasn't been made about what that play structure would be though.
So I put down the $22,000 as a placeholder here. Because I think we're going to fund this after we
It sounds
find
like a
out.
good solution to me.
I'm sorry?
They
Sounds
said
like a
it's
good
under
solution to me.
For now.
Okay. Okay, the next one is Harvest Crossing, the affordable housing project. The original request was for $75,000 that they put in for a specific project on this, which was, I think, to put in the roadway or something, which I forget right now. But we asked them to reconsider that, to have something that was more for sure that would be spent. And they came back and said that the plan right now is to close on the property, to buy the property from Phil Jacobs, either in April or May, hopefully in April, but in May. The amount of money that they have to complete the purchase, the $75,000 will not completely cover that. They are going to take out a loan. But since they asked for the $75,000 in the first place, they just left it at $75,000. My suggestion would be that if we could give them $100,000, that would go toward getting the property closed next month.
So we have this information, Bill? That the
I'm sorry?
100,000 would fulfill that requirement?
Yes,
And your suggestion would then be that we increase the amount here to 100.
yes. So obviously, all the other projects that they had listed that still have to be done, the utilities, the everything. But right now, Habitat for Humanities would like to have them close on it so that there's a possibility that they could start constructing a home this summer. In other words, buying one of the pieces of property to construct a home.
I think it's a good project. I think it's a good thing that Underhill is doing and a good thing that this group is doing. And I really think we should support it and at the level that we think is good and appropriate.
So when we first discussed this, I asked, I believe the project is for 6 or 8 houses in total. And I asked how many houses would be given to people in Underhill. And the answer was that Habitat for Humanity has a process for that. And it might be 0, it might be 1. It certainly wouldn't be more than 2 because we're competing with a lot of the rest of the county or something like that. Is that roughly true? Is that what we understand?
I don't know about the number, but the way the project is scheduled is for Habitat for Humanities to buy a piece of property and build a house for somebody that they have already lined up.
I think it makes a difference because I don't think that this is actually a fundable project under ARPA rules. And the reason I say that is that ARPA provides 4 categories of entities to which the town can transfer money, and one is a private nonprofit organization. But the condition is the recipient can document that its jurisdiction receives a benefit proportionate to the amount contributed. So we're talking now about $100,000, which is, 12, 14% of the total ARPA for maybe none, maybe one, maybe two citizens of Underhill. Does not seem proportionate to me, no matter how wonderful the Habitat for Humanity project is.
Well, are there other indirect benefits of that project? I kind of agree with this, actually. I've been not finding it clear, hasn't been completely clear to me that that would be something that benefits the town as a whole.
So I can speak to a couple of pieces on that. One is, I don't think that there's any certainty that anyone who's applying for a Habitat Humanity house would have anything to do with Underhill. They'd become Underhill residents, and that property would become, it would be added to our grand list. So we would have tax income from that household. And then the other piece of that is that we have a affordable housing crisis in Chittenden County and in Vermont. So we would be helping answer that question, which is why they've received, the Harvest Crossing has received so much other funding and grant funding for this project, is because there is a huge housing crisis in our state.
Yeah, I'm just reading from the rules.
So do they need the money though from our pot, or can that be like the state pot? That, because it seems like more of a state level.
They're getting.
So they're asking for more from us, like in addition to whatever they're getting from whatever the state level. Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that, do you know if that's ARPA funding? No, like it's not. Because aren't there funds that go to like the state as a whole? Okay. And that's not enough. So they're asking for the town for more. Are they, and they're asking other towns for more?
Not for this project,
Okay.
because it's in Underhill.
Oh, because this one, it's entirely in Underhill?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this project checks pretty much all of the boxes that ARPA is intended for and that line up with the town plan. It would increase the density of development downtown. It would create, yes, a small number, but some affordable housing in Underhill. And, in terms of benefiting current Underhill residents, it's a bit of a chicken and the egg, right? Like we can't get new Underhill residents because there's nowhere affordable to live. So until we build these things, we're closing the doors to a lot of people. I think it's a pretty excellent use of this funding. My only kind of consideration would be, given that we're purchasing the property from an Underhill resident, that there's some sort of independent verification that it's a fair purchase price of the property to protect against any concerns about conflict of interest or anything like that. But in my view, this is a great use of the funds.
One of the reasons why the actual purchase date is being not really pushed up, but pushed into soon is because Phil, offered this property for affordable housing and took it off the market. And since then, he has been pressured by many people to sell the property. And, if he sells it, it's going to be developed, and it certainly isn't going to be developed into affordable housing. I mean, let's face where that property is. The property has some wetland on it, so it's houses can't be built on the entire area. So I don't know if when you come from, if you turn into the post office, and you drive down that road called, whatever that road is called, on the left, that there's some really wetland across there until you get out closer to Meadow Lane and down by the fire department.
Is the May purchase, or the April/May purchase, would be for the entire lot, like the entire amount that Harvest Crossing wants to build on, or is it just for one home's worth of lot?
Now, the purchase is the entire 9+ acres that Phil Jacobs owns. And the plan is to subdivide that 9 acres into building lots. And each of those building lots will be purchased individually by Habitat.
I think this is a real opportunity. I mean, Underhill is definitely growing McMansions. It has no problem with sprouting those, but getting places where real people can live. We've got school teachers, we got people that work here in various roles. I think that and putting stuff in that they can buy into. No, we're in a free market. We cannot guarantee, but it's very entirely possible that someone who would be wanting to teach at Browns River or something like that would be looking to purchase one of these. That they don't currently live in Underhill doesn't trouble me even the slightest. They will become integral members of our community and productive members of our community, and I think we need to find some way to do something other than grow McMansions here. And this looks like a really great way to do that.
Yeah, that's helpful.
That's what? Oh, helpful. Other comments? Willing to put my proposal down?
I am.
Sorry, the 100,000 will allow them to close,
Yes.
but 75 will not. Is that what's going on
Well,
here?
with 75, they're going to have to take a loan out. They will, obviously they will find funding for the rest of it,
Yeah.
but they're going to have, and they have the Vermont Land Trust is willing to loan them the money. But the point is that if they can close it and then get busy doing the rest of the infrastructure so that Habitat can move in there or can buy a lot as soon as possible is really the thing that I was looking at.
And they have funding to do the rest of the infrastructure? Like they're ready to move on that as well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. I mean, I think it seems reasonable to propose that. I think then the select board can decide maybe what seems reasonable after that, but Oh, sure. Yep. Okay, the last one that I have that is less than 2 is the digitizing the records in town hall.
I can speak to that and that it is used almost every single day by residents, realtors, people just looking at properties in Underhill that they're interested in buying. Contractors use it to compare different properties. I mean, we've already got a certain number of records. We used CLFRF funds to digitize a bunch. The first round of funding, and because people couldn't come into town hall. And so this gets another huge chunk of those records digitized. And I don't know if any of you guys have accessed it, but I have. It's pretty seamless. So it's cool stuff.
How far back does it go?
Don't ask me, but they are working their way back. I forget. I think it's like this one gets it back to the 70s and they're at the 80s or something like that. But I can find that out for you specifically.
We were involved in an issue and we paid somebody to look at the land records, and they gave us back the report and went back to 1820.
Oh, wow. So I'm not sure about that, but I could find that.
Jennifer, I'm assuming that this will be linked to our GIS database and so on, right?
Yes. Yes.
It seems like that's going to end up getting funded one way or another. So this goes as one of those things that seems like it makes sense for the select board to decide, do you want to use the ARPA money or just regular budget money? Like, it seems like that could be easily be like a regular town budget item, no?
If it was a regular town budget item, it would wait another year because
Yeah.
the budget obviously is already.
So
Right.
this is one of those things that's been suggested for a long time, that we should go digitize this. And it has obviously never made it into the budget. And
Why is that though?
because there's other things that bump it out.
But
You
then
know,
with ARPA and not wanting people to come in, I mean, we were shut down. We wouldn't let people into the building, even when we were
So
here.
it was worse. Yeah.
People couldn't close. And even now, we find that there are a lot of people who don't want to come into the building. I mean, they come in, don't want to come in, listen to me cough. So we still, and then even after that, we stayed open. We were open, but by appointment only. It was very limiting.
Mhm.
So this allows people to access those records anywhere, anytime. And it's a source of income. So.
Yeah.
We charge for those.
I mean,
copies.
that makes sense. It's just a matter of like whether it needs to be
Right.
ARPA or not. Who knows? I mean, it's not like,
Sherry got the updated quote on that. I think it's in here.
Sort of my feeling is I know how long that they've been talking about this on and off, and it's never made it. And here's an opportunity to, let's use some of these funds to get it done.
plus it seems like it's self-sustaining, like in the sense that it would lead to town revenue or of some sort.
I'm asking Sherry how far back they go.
Okay, so not counting the first two, the sidewalk and the town hall improvements, the others that we just went through total $175,900.
Mhm.
What was that total?
175,900. So, shall we move on to those that's between 2 and 2.5? Or we'll just go down as long as we want to, I guess. The next one I have is the town hall solar project.
Were we going to go back to the town hall improvements now that Jennifer's back to answer questions about exactly what that included?
Oh, that's right, because Jen had left. Yes, there were questions about exactly what projects are included in the $100,000. And I think also if less money was allocated, is there still projects that could get done?
Yes. So the floor here, I can go grab the folder, but so the floor in here has to be redone. It can't be replaned and refinished again. So that was a piece. The other piece is sound buffers which were really inexpensive, but sound buffers in this room, shades, special shades for the windows in this room, constructing so that this space could be used more efficiently, a staircase that goes up into that space up there and it becomes flat and that becomes a separate area for meetings. And
Wait a minute, this is going to stay
yes, it's the bathroom's underneath it, so you can't really remove it.
oh, okay.
I was thinking the same thing.
So yes, it has to stay there. There's a very low ceiling, 2 bathrooms in there.
Okay.
Painting the entire office interior, all the offices, new carpets in the offices, new floor and new linoleum in the bathroom and the kitchen. I think that's it.
So, yeah, so the answer to that question is yes. If we said $25,000.
They would
you'd
figure
find
out
some
what their
way to spend it.
priorities are and they would do it.
My vote would be for the full amount personally. I think that that the building should be taken care of.
Well, I agree with that, is that the building seems to have, especially this part that most people see, is just, has a feeling that it's not been taken care of in a very long time.
It's not safe either. This room is beginning to get to the point where I think for having public meetings and there is literally this little thin piece of wood and then there's these very old braces or floor joists and then there's the downstairs sheetrock. There's really nothing here and a lot of it is rotted and sinking in. So
Yeah, I think we should have some pride in this building as our like one government building to take care of it. I'm fully supportive of.
So everything is interior that you're talking about.
yes.
So-
Jen, do you have a sense of whether these improvements would allow town meeting to be moved back to town hall? Or are we too big for that?
I think we're too big for that, but
This year we were.
I don't know.
One thing that the town rec committee talks about a lot is community events. And so the rec committee, and this was sort of contentious at a select board meeting recently, but the rec committee also wanted to produce a proposal for the town hall improvements because they want the space for like yoga classes or, you know, ski movie night or something like that, where people could come in here and actually use this space for a community gathering. And, you know, then Jennifer rightly pointed out, like, we've already been working on it. Like, we already have all the details. So you know, from our perspective, for community gathering, the rec committee is very supportive of the town hall improvements also. And it sounds like
one
you
of
can also,
the
sorry.
one
go
of
ahead.
the things that are missing in Underhill, I think especially for people with young kids, is an indoor gathering space for winter months, and making town hall be more suitable for that would be a huge benefit to young families in Underhill.
Mhm. The other thing is you could squeeze in some of these energy improvements potentially as part of, you know, add to it.
I would definitely like the LED lights downstairs in the office. If that doesn't go through on this, I would probably add that to the town improvement plan. I originally, in the plan that I was going to submit to you guys, originally I had the LED lights, the solar and the generator. And then I thought, you know what? It would be better if the energy committee, if I gave those to the energy committee or someone else, because, you know, it's easier to chew as kind of separate projects. So
And yet yours went right to the top and some of the others down lower. There you go.
I think if you put a large dollar value there, and then you could bring in some of these other ones that are directly for, you know, either these proposed improvements or some combination of those plus the energy improvements, and made that dollar value bigger. I don't know how much the other things cost.
So, Michael, of the Energy Committee proposals, which ones go along with the improvements that Jen was just talking about?
Well, tapping into my memory, obviously the LED lights do. Closely related but not the same would be generator support. We need emergency power probably at both locations. And let's see. Obviously, we like the idea of solar there. Well, the town hall, the energy upgrade period, that's got to go. And the LED lights are almost a throwaway. I'm not sure why we haven't kind of already done it. So we would say that really should be part of, as Jennifer said, part of the overall basic, base level improvements. But then, solar is great. And Although it doesn't make a lot of sense at some level to support charging without the EV. The charging would support EVs in town and potential for EV use by staff and potentially even expanding into that area in the future.
My feeling is we should wrap in the generator, the lights, and the solar and the town hall improvements and fund the whole thing.
Well, the town hall generator got a fairly low score. Are you going to give it a 1, bring it up to 2.6?
I actually didn't rank that one because I couldn't remember about the fact about whether or not what the reason was for it. You know, like to me these are things that if you had, so like let's say you say we want to fund the town hall improvements plus and include energy improvements or whatever, you know, energy, whatever you want to call it, as part of the, you know, what we think it should be allocated for, then, you know, it should be up to the select board, like, what do you need to do here? I just don't know about the generator compared to like some of the other things with the town hall. That's the only thing I was not clear on.
So just, if I could just talk about the generator for a quick sec. So on Christmas Eve storm, and then there was another storm that was 4 or 5 days, we didn't lose power we lost power on the Christmas Eve storm, but the town garage lost power. When they lost power, the garage doors don't open and close. The furnace doesn't work. The trucks can't be in a garage that doesn't have heat. So we have a generator reserve fund that was voted on by the residents of Underhill that has, I believe, in it $20-something thousand. So I think their generator cost on that for the generator at the town garage was somewhere around, I think it was like 4. Yeah, so theirs is like 38,000. So they would have most of that money. I don't think if the reserve is used, you could say you could bridge that gap for the generator for the garage if you chose to. Here we don't have one at all. And this location is an emergency location if there was any reason that someone needed to evacuate. Like, for example, the fire department had to go door to door and evacuate people on Dumas and one other road during the storms where it was washing out the roads. They went door to door, knocked on the roads and said, you need to leave your house, you need to leave your house. So this is a location that's an emergency location. We have had a couple instances where there was emergencies up at UCS and all of the kids, the entire student body, walked down here with their teachers. I forget what it was, if it was a bomb scare or something. So there is some reasons to upgrade this facility and make sure that it can stand on its own if we were to have some kind of a power outage.
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, it does seem like that this obviously needs to go into the budget at some point, you know? So again, I would be in support of that because, I mean, whether they use ARPA or they just put it on next year's budget, like that should definitely be funded.
But just to play the devil's advocate, if this is so important, how come it's been not done for the last 50 years?
You've worked on budgets before. You know why.
It gets brought up, but it gets bounced because we manage to, you know, each year we skirt through it, or skate through it, I guess. So it's been more of a wish list than a need to at this point, and so it just gets pushed.
Yeah, I'd like to just add too. I mean, it's one of those things. It's very easy. Like 99% of the time, it's not important. 1% of the time, it's absolutely critical. I once heard a pilot describe flying aircraft as hours and hours of utter boredom interspersed with moments of sheer terror. It's kind of that sort of thing. It's like when you don't need it, which is most of the time, everybody says, well, that's something we can put off. That's something we can put off. But when you need it, there's no recourse.
Jennifer's making a good point that, you know, that was one of the intentions of ARPA is to like disaster preparedness to some level. So,
Which is why I put it in there.
yeah.
So I was just looking, so we just put down $100,000 for the town hall improvements, but I'm thinking that we should add to that the, the, uh, the lighting upgrade, the generator, and the
Electric upgrade, certainly.
electrical upgrade. I'm not sure what that was called, Michael, you know, the new,
Yeah, it was Town Hall Electric Upgrade,
Yeah.
okay.
number 41.
Okay, so those three items total $38,000. So I think what we should, that's the town garage generator.
That adds another $38,000 to it.
Right.
Right, but we don't need to fund all of it because they do have a reserve fund for some of that.
Gotcha.
But, you know, I'm talking about just interior town hall improvements that we add to that town hall improvement, $38,000 to include the generator, the electrical upgrade, and the lighting.
To me, that seems
Sounds like an eminently reasonable solution to me.
to me, it doesn't seem reasonable that you can do all that for 138. I feel like we should round that up to 150.
Hey, Michael put it together. I think it must be.
That's the best data that we had at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, those are all real quotes.
yeah, no, I know, but like, I feel like I can't do anything in my house for less than 100. You know what I mean? This is a pretty big room.
Boy, I want to live in your house.
Yeah, well.
So, so by putting that in, the total that we're up to now is $313,900, which is getting up to right around half of what we have.
Mhm.
So let's continue on through the ranking. And we're down to the Deborah Rawson Library.
One quick note, there's $15,000 on your list that you put in for the electric upgrades, which I think you've now included in the town hall upgrades overall.
Oh, because the town hall electric upgrade was still up there. Yep. So she's saying you still had the 15,000 for the town hall electric upgrade in that total.
Up above.
Yeah. So like town hall improvements would go to 138, but that 15,000.
Oh, thank you. That's, no wonder I couldn't find it. It was right there. Okay, I'm going to take that out there. There we go. So that cuts it down to 298,900, 299,000. So the Deborah Rawson Library. So this is the, just as a quick review, remember they put in a proposal which was just basically budgetary stuff. And when I went back and talked with Holly, explaining that to her, she said, well, what we really need is an upgrade to our HVAC system. And I said, well, then that's what you should put in. So they had already sent off for some bids and hadn't gotten them back yet. And when they did, it came in at $192,000. So
That's the high end.
that, yes. So here
We'd cover
is,
40% if we're,
that would be 40%. However,
No,
No,
192 is all of it.
so, but I don't know who pointed this out, and I remember that as when I looked at the library annual report, I did notice that they had a
Big
capital fund that I remembered to be $80,000. Now, I can't find my copy of it, so I don't know if that's exactly right, but $80,000 really sticks in my mind. So my thought process was if we, if we would take $192,000, subtract the $80,000 that they already have, and then take 40% of that we're going to fund through Underhill's ARPA.
Be one where we would need the contingency on
Of
getting
Jericho, yeah.
yeah.
And I also want to point out a couple of things. When we're thinking about Jericho Underhill Library, as residents, we all pay, Underhill and Jericho basically pay to run the library. So, the appropriation is sizable that we already pay. Also, I don't think that they would be necessarily willing to spend their entire capital budget that they've saved, their reserve, on this HVAC. I think originally they were building up their capital to expand their building and buy a piece of property like that house in front of it that's kind of run down. I think
No,
they
to
were.
the side.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I know that was one of the reasons that they were trying to accumulate some funds. So I don't know if we can dictate, okay, we'll give you this money, but you need to use all your reserves.
No, we don't. That's not what we're dictating.
Okay.
What we're saying is that we are coming up with an amount to give them. And that's how we chose to come up with that amount. They don't have, if they don't want to spend it. Now.
What if they don't do the job?
Okay, so now this property next door has been talked about for years. And as far as I'm concerned, it has been on and off the table many times. And it was also, one of the reasons was because there was not good parking there. And now there is the additional parking over there.
Right.
So I don't know for sure, but I think it's off the table right now. But the fact that they need a heating and air conditioning system should be still on
Pretty
the.
important.
They didn't come up with that though until you went back to them to be like, wait, you proposed all this other stuff, which isn't really.
It was on the original proposal. It just didn't have a dollar amount on it.
Yeah,
okay.
they were waiting for a
Okay.
proposal.
And that was because I had originally said to Holly, get something to us,
Yeah.
just so we have something.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Is this one of those things though, if they don't get, like if you say you're going to subtract the 80,000 and then you say we're going to fund the rest of it, if it's not the full, like they're unwilling to use their reserves and they're 80,000 short now, like do they not do anything?
So- Well, so
Give them the money?
Yeah.
okay, so let's just put some round numbers in. There's the $80,000. The number that I was coming up with is 45,000 about.
Mhm.
So we can give them $45,000. They don't have to buy the new system this year. That can go right into their capital thing until they get enough money to replace it. Isn't that true?
Once we give them the money's gone from Underhill. So
Yeah.
they can do what they want with it. Unless you put conditions on it and say it's got to be used for.
Well, I mean, we could do
Well,
that.
if we fund the library anyway, and they control their own budget, I'm assuming.
Correct.
So seems like you're paying for it one way or another.
True.
Yeah,
So that
they put
seems
together a
reasonable.
budget.
Yeah.
40% of it's paid by Underhill, 60% by Jericho.
Yeah. So you're eventually going to be paying for this
Right.
HVAC system anyway.
Right.
I think that even though this is shared with Jericho, this is another one of the few community gathering spaces we have that is truly accessible to everybody. And I think it's worth the investment Uh, When I looked through the initial estimated, not being an HVAC expert, this looks kind of like the Cadillac of HVAC systems. So I don't know if there's some savings to be had. I know there's significant rebates at the state and federal level for, large scale HVAC systems that are energy efficient. So I would hope that even a sizable investment from us, they could find a more affordable HVAC system, but I think it's worth contributing a sizable chunk to help them get to that goal.
Oh, I agree with that. And I think, in thinking about that is, I'm sure that they would look for something better. And what it'll do is it will just take less money out of their capital fund that could be used for something else in the library. So my quick calculations here is that's going to be around $45,000 if we do it like I said. Subtract 80,000 and take 40% of it. Okay, so now the next one on my list is one of the fire department proposals for the life safety equipment. And we know that there's another proposal of theirs for the repeater, and then the one that we just got for the digital radios to talk to the state police. So let's sort of just talk about a number for the fire
So the
department.
total's like 60, right? If
Yes.
you add them all,
Yeah.
Okay.
59,000 would be the total. So do you want to look at what our 40% would be?
24,000. 694, I guess. That would be funding all of them. Well, I hate to say it, we would be giving them that much money based on the three proposals that they've given us.
And then talking to Jericho and hoping that they.
Yes.
So their original, did they originally have more proposals than they wanted to add the staff person, but did they submit other ones originally, or did those ones come after? Do you remember?
Yes, the original proposal was to
hire
fund
somebody.
an employee or two employees, I think, to the fire department, full-time EMT employees.
Mhm.
And I think it was Roy that chatted with them about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came up with the other two.
Yeah. I mean, I was sold on the extra. I personally called 911 from my house twice now, so I was sold on the extra, like, having another first responder or whatever. So I personally think it makes sense to increase our capacity to rescue people. But I liked the idea of the person. Like, they really sold me on the number of minutes it would take to get to somebody's house in that first proposal. I forget what it said exactly, but these other things, I have to look at them.
And how close was the estimate?
I don't remember what the dollar value was, but it was, they convinced me in the proposal that we should do that because,
I see.
like, to me, that's like,
Oh, okay.
if it takes like half the time to get to your house, that's like saves lives,
Yes.
like, and they do respond to,
Problem
Given
was
her
it was a
fault.
recurring cost that was only going to cover like 1 year's worth of a person. And then after that, how do we pay?
Exactly. So I would have liked to see the money go towards the extra person as opposed to some of the other things, but
So where are we on the fire department?
well, that's joint, that
60.
is that
40%,
40% is 60, provided there's buy-in from the. Well, that one, I don't know if you need the buy-in from Jericho necessarily, because it seems like they could do something with anything that you give them.
Right.
Yeah,
And again,
we could maybe
we don't-
commit to funding our share of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agree.
We could commit to
So-
funding our share of that regardless of what Jericho does. But hopefully they would match it with their share and the fire department could.
They will, if not, I'm going to.
That's why we need them here in person.
So when I talk to Jericho, I will tell them that what we're doing as with the fire department is looking at all three proposals and hoping that they will fund 60% of it, as we're willing to fund 40%.
I agree with Luke that it doesn't have to be conditional on Jericho either.
Right.
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to go back to another one
Go.
after you're done with this one. Just a quick comment.
We done with the fire department? Okay, Jennifer.
I just wanted to quickly go back to the digitization question that Nori asked about how far back. Right now, we go back to 1983, which is not enough for a quote unquote 40-year search, which is what is required by most institutions. So this will take back this digitization, this 13,000 will take the town of Underhill back the 40 years and it will digitize back into the 1950s.
Okay.
Jen, will you just, maybe I misheard that, but we're required, the typical search that we need to fund is 40 years. You said we're back to 1983. Wouldn't that be exactly 40 years? If we're searching from current day back?
83.
I don't know, I'm just reading what Sherry texted me. She says it will digitize back to the 1950s. 40 years.
40 years from now would be 83.
That actually raises more questions for me. If the thing we mostly need to do is get back to 1983 and we're
she's
already
drinking.
there. Maybe we need more info on that, but if all we really need is to be able to easily access 40 years and we're there already, that makes me wonder if this is the right way to spend this money. But I was unaware of the 40-year thing.
Okay, Jen sending another
I'll
note
follow
off
up. I
to
could talk to
Sherry.
her in the morning. We'll talk in the morning. I'll find out for you.
And I do actually have to step out, get the kids to bed. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you next month.
Thanks, Luke.
Bye, Luke.
Bye.
So the next two are the playground structure at Town Pond and the tennis court things. That's part of the recreation committee?
Yes.
Okay.
So I spoke to the rec committee about this at our last meeting, saying that it would be helpful to, we've already done this for the town select board several times, actually, of like prioritizing all of our budget requests, because the town rec committee is pretty active. We have lots of ideas, lots of things to be done, but, you know, we're sensitive to the fact that not everything can get done right away, but we feel like, you know, it makes sense to take care of the town recreation area. And so we've been chipping away at it. So originally we wanted to propose like a big capital request for, you know, this improvement, but I think we've been able to like get the tennis courts, get the fence, you know, it's obviously looking much better down there. But part of the tennis court improvement did not include like a rebound wall. Like people want the wall that you can hit the tennis ball against the back. So we had a piece of plywood there before that was like strapped up to, so we considered doing that, but they, you know, tennis court companies make like proper rebound walls that would be more robust and whatever. So that is something that we will continue to propose in our own budget until it gets funded. And then the other one is the playground equipment, because the swings are like not okay anymore. They need to be taken away. And so we've been talking about replacing them with more of a like natural type play structure, like not a blue and red piece of playground equipment, but something that's like, yeah, like a wood and rope type thing, or like, you know, we talked about like a tree fort, but there's like liability, too expensive, all sorts of issues with that, but or just a more like aesthetically pleasing set of swings, because people do like having the swings there. Like if, you know, when I take my kids there, they go to the pond and they go to play in the sand and they go on the swings, like, so that's where that's coming from. But the rec committee was saying that, you know, if you gave us like 15,000, whatever, some amount, you know, the rec committee would find a way to use that to improve the town pond area, basically. Or the Underhill Town Recreation Area is what that's called.
So what number would you put in?
Well, so he got the quotes for the rebound wall was 6,000 and the play structure 25,000. You know, I have conflicting thoughts on this. One is that the rec committee has actually been fairly successful at getting budget money for their projects, because there's a lot of community traction behind the things that the committee is doing. You know, like you know, the town pond has improved since we've started managing it. You know, and then, you know, the food truck nights and the skating rink and things like that. It's Mossy Meadow. So we do find that there's good community support for the projects and also good select board support for the projects. So I feel fairly confident that at least the rebound wall will get funded. The playground structure, it comes down to that question of where do you want playground equipment? You know, like, is it good enough just to have playground equipment? I think the playground equipment that they're looking for the town pond is much less expensive than what they're talking about at the school. Like, we're talking about a couple sturdy swings, you know, and if you said to them, we'll give you, so it's 25,000, we'll give you $10,000 or $5,000, they would find something to put there that costs that amount. You know what I mean? So I mean, just because I know the proposal, I mean, this is what they're thinking it would cost for what you would want, but they said that if you decide, okay, town rec committee, you know, you can put $20,000 towards the recreation area improvement, they will like try to strategize to use that money the best way possible, basically.
But you didn't answer my question.
Oh, so what do I think the number should be?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I could tell you that it should be 31,000.
Okay.
30,000. I mean, we got $50,000 in the budget to start improving the town pond. I think it did
40 ARPA this year.
Yeah, so it came out of ARPA, I guess, or whatever. But, you know, there were many things that needed to be done there. Again, it's a situation where that area was not taken care of for quite some time. And, you know, the town recreation committee budget is like $5,000 a year. So you need to have
And
these
that area.
bigger
is
funds
huge.
come in to improve the area. And that's a well-used area. I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's maybe becoming like, it's almost too popular, like
Yeah.
there's like too many kids swimming there. So, I mean, it is a really like, it's a hot spot for people with little kids. Like I am there literally every day. I'm in Underhill when I have in the summer.
Yeah.
With my kids. The camp uses it daily. There has been a huge, like the tennis courts have been used, like are always being
Pickleball now?
used. Pickleball, yeah. And there's no like lessons or anything, so that rebound wall allows kids to learn how to use, like how to hit the ball and whatever. So personally think that if you did, I think that if you did 30,000 for rec committee for town recreation improvements, it would be well used.
Other comments?
Yeah, I guess my only comment is they did get 40,000, so this would mean, it would mean 70,000
yeah.
to recreation in Underhill Center. That's all. Just because we already funded 40,000.
Oh, for the,
Yeah, and
Okay.
For the fence.
this just comes down to like how the town wants to plan this out. I mean, in my head, this is all going to happen, right?
Yeah.
That whole area needs to be improved. Is it all happening this year? Is it
Yeah.
this money?
That
Is
will
it
be
some
in the
other
budget next
pocket?
year.
We're going to keep applying for this until
Till the town caves.
it comes,
Other comments? So do I take that we should put down $31,000 for these two projects? Yes, that's what I take. So 25,000 for the playground and 6,000 for the tennis.
The only thing that comes back to this is that, like, should that playground equipment be put towards like handicapped accessible, sturdier playground equipment at the school? I don't know. Like maybe that we should put that as like a asterisk or something for the town to decide, like, I mean, we think that this
Right.
area can be improved,
Good point.
the play structure be used, but like, it's really up to you, like, if you want to put that piece of playground equipment somewhere else,
So,
I don't know. I'm wondering if we should just mention that as a comment to the
Yeah.
town. Like,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
do think, I personally think that it would be nice to put it there at the town pond, to give, like, their kids, they're playing tennis, there's something else to do there.
Oh, so that all the kids aren't in the pond at once.
Yeah.
So I have a little trouble here understanding that, so there's $25,000 for the playground equipment at the town pond. The school's request for playground equipment is $235,000. So when you say, would it be better put at the school? That would be just a drop in the bucket for what,
No, but they said that Luke was saying, when he went back to clarify, he said that the whole playground structure was the 200,000 or something. But that some of what they wanted to upgrade was for particular accessible play structures that could be used with kids with different difficulties, physical difficulties. So I think what Emily's trying to say is, if there was a structure that could be bought, that could be utilized at the school.
I'm just saying it's up to the,
It's up to
like
the select board
town
at
to
their
decide, like,
discretion.
are we going to have a playground at the town pond or not? Something needs to happen there. The old swings need to go, like,
They're not safe.
Yeah, you can't have that. And people love that little swing set. I personally would just I'd put a like rack of very aesthetically pleasing, natural based like swings there, and call it a day for, I don't know what that would cost, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure at least $10,000, something like that, That's what I would do. And it's a low budget way to have something there for kids to use in a different location than the school. The problem is the school playground equipment is crazy expensive, like that blue and red. Like playground equipment is insanely
Really
expensive.
ugly, but useful.
Yeah, and it lasts forever and whatever, but so
Emily just wants to make it more difficult for us.
I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying it feels selfish to say that there needs to be playground equipment at the town pond, put it there, and then say no playground equipment at the school if the town thinks the school is a better place for having playground equipment. You know what I mean?
However.
It seems to me
but
though, we
we're
can
ma-
make a lot bigger difference at the pond than at the school.
Yes, the dollar value will make a bigger difference at the pond. Yeah. Like the school
The
can't,
impact would be greater.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. So, yeah, so let's just keep it that way. Fine, no disclaimers. We'll stop overcomplicating.
Okay, so it's a
So
little after,
31,000 town recreation area on Stevensville Road, done.
so we have gone through, up through the 2.5 ratings, average ratings. Do we want to,
So didn't we skip town hall solar?
we included that, oh, we did skip that. You're right.
So just don't forget we skipped it.
You're right, because I was looking at all the ones where, okay, let's go back and do town hall solar, yes.
Why don't we round the town hall improvements up to 200,000?
I don't think it looks well to have the town hall.
No, too much.
I think,
I think there is sense to folding the other improvements in, and the solar is a different kind of category. I do support it, and I think it's an excellent idea, and there does seem to be a fair amount of support for it, but I do think that there is sense to splitting it off.
Oh, so do you rank 50,000 for town hall solar above those other two? So we talked about well, fire department ended up moving higher up. So then the ranking would be the solar and then the town recreation area improvements. So I guess
It
the
would be
question is,
worthwhile to me I mean, a lot has happened here in terms of both dollar amounts and shuffling numbers around and stuff. It would be helpful to me to be able to take a look at it.
Mhm.
let's get a clean copy and do it next time.
Yes, I will do that. So what about town hall solar? Do you want to who would like to comment on the almost $50,000 for it? You want to start, Michael?
Well, I mean, we do think that general improvements, we're looking for opportunities to do a lot more with solar and those kinds of applications. And we really felt like the town hall would be a really excellent place to do that. We're looking for additional energy capabilities there in any case, like we're going to be, we're adding generator capacity. This is kind of a piece with all of that. So we felt that this was a good opportunity. We don't have very many good opportunities to do renewable resources in town. We're looking for them, and the town hall is kind of one of the few that we really actually have at this point. So we'd like to see some movement made in that direction.
Would it make sense to have two items here? One would be like town hall interior improvements, including the LED lights, and then have the other, the generator, solar, and lighting upgrade, all. Oh, is the lighting
Well, the lighting
lights?
upgrade is the LED lights.
Yeah, sorry, they put those up, yeah.
Can I also say that the town hall solar is in at 49,456, but I believe that there's a 35% cash back to the municipality right now from the federal government that the town would get. So it's not really 50,000. I can go pull that. It's an actual check back to the town. So that number is not that.
So that would be a big help as well.
Well, yeah, I think that makes sense.
I mean,
So
that's a third off the top.
is this enough to run the town hall?
I
This
don't
proposal?
recall the actual output. I do not believe it would be. But don't forget, we're already, in a sense, getting a share of the Beartown array.
A share of what?
We have the town has a solar array on Beartown Road.
Oh, okay.
Although, it goes onto the grid. It doesn't, come by wire straight to the town hall.
Yeah, seems like we should combine the solar and the generator.
Never mind, I was incorrect. It's 70,651 less the rebate of 21,196 comes down to 49,456. Because it's a big solar array.
Yeah, that seems expensive, actually.
It's so expensive right now. So,
Jennifer, do you remember the output rating on that? I don't have it in hand.
um, 2,743.
That seems really expensive.
Suncommon.
Why is that so expensive?
So I just had my house, I got 2 quotes at my house.
Yeah.
For solar, and they were both in the 50s, thousand.
Yeah. Well, I know, but
Less
like,
the,
It's doubled in the last 5 years.
right, yeah, so I mean, I had the same thing happen at my house too, but like, I considered it to be like not affordable, but I'm confused about how the town hall ends up using that much energy. Like, how is it more than like one of our houses? You know what I mean?
I don't know the answer to that.
Because, well, this is just really inefficient. That just seems really high because I wouldn't think it would be using more energy than like somebody's home because really all the energy used is like downstairs really during the day, right?
Right.
What's the heating system here?
Oil. It's a new furnace, it's propane. And then there are electric heat pumps for the air conditioning downstairs, one in my office and one in Mandy's office. There's 3 heat pumps. But I think I use mine maybe once in the summer.
Where do they put the solar panels?
It's a
Sale?
bank of them out on the ground over there.
Yeah, see, that's the problem.
Oh, do we have to
You
buy
can't put
that
'em
piece
on
of
the roof.
property? to put this on?
No.
Well, that's the situation at my house. You need to get the ground mount system and then it just is outrageously expensive.
It's a ground mount system. You can't do it on the roof here.
Yeah. Well, does it make, I don't know.
So I've been really gung ho about solar, but then I started doing some financial analysis of solar and started reading more about solar in Vermont. And I'm not going to do it at my own home.
Exactly.
So,
That's exactly what I was just thinking. I was
so
like, 'cause
I'm not sure it's a great investment
Yeah.
for us. I agree that we want to set a good example. I agree that we want to, look for alternative energy sources and et cetera. But I'm starting to struggle a lot with the whole solar in Vermont thing.
Like, it does seem like at some point it has to become more affordable.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I've been thinking. I was like, well, there's got to be a break. My break
It's
even
going the
was
wrong
like
way.
35 years. I'm only going to live in my house for another 10 years, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It does sound like it's going the wrong way. We installed it in Jericho, but that was 5 or 6 years ago. And this house came with it already because it was done a few years before that. And it was not that kind of cost.
Yeah. Like my dad put it in his house in Massachusetts and his payoff was like 9 years, obviously then it starts to make sense, but
So can we get back to the agenda or go home?
Well, I think we're talking about the fact of whether or not it's good, makes good financial sense to spend $50,000 on solar.
So let's wrap up for tonight. I will update the spreadsheet with the information we talked about.
Okay.
But right now, we've allocated right around $400,000. The total is $655,000, so that's $250,000 that we did not talk about tonight. And remember, the whole point is that after we got to some point, we were going to think about the rest of it for the sidewalk, which is fine, which I like. The question now is to think about, do we want the $250,000 or do we want to go down through some more proposals? We've gone through the proposals that have averaged 2.5 or less. So let's
And the other
think about
question
that.
is, how do we want to make the recommendation to the board, Bill? I mean, do we want to precisely limit it or, give them something to pick from?
Well, we can talk about that at the next meeting.
My feeling is that we're going to go through our proposals and we are going to give those proposals to the board totaling $655,000.
Sounds like a reasonable approach.
To volunteer the remaining proposals unless they ask for them. Because what they asked us to do was to go and review proposals and come to them with how to spend the money. Now, there's always a chance they'll say, go back and revisit this or this or that. And, well, if they do that, we'll have a discussion, but.
I mean, one thing you could do is say, okay, we identified these as high priority projects. There's $250,000 left. You could, option A, $250,000 to sidewalk. Option B is fund a few more projects and then $50,000 to sidewalk. You know what I mean?
Or we could give more to some of the ones we already given
Yeah.
to.
Right. So
I mean,
I think I like the idea of two options because I think the sidewalk is really going to be.
Like, what if they can't spend it?
Exactly. Like, it's really going to be about whether or not they can actually use that money in the time frame. If you say, okay, we've got $50,000 left, we're willing to go to the sidewalk, but like that buys you like 10 feet of sidewalk,
Right.
then we might as well just wait till we get all the grant money,
or the other thing, we could just build new playground at the school.
Yeah.
Dig a pond.
So are we meeting on the 10th?
Well, so let's talk about how long we want to wait until we meet again. I mean, number one is, I hope some of you are thinking about when we're going to be done with this.
Yes, I was thinking about that very point today.
Yes. I would
I
rather,
think we're close.
I would
Yeah.
rather us have another meeting in like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
With the purpose of not maybe coming up with the final number, but coming close.
Yeah.
And then giving us some time to think about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, at this point, I think we're just wasting time. Like before, when we were meeting monthly and still proposals were still coming in, it's a
Right.
different story. But at this point, we are ready to make the recommendation. Us not meeting for 2 weeks just delays that whole process by 2 weeks. So, or a month or whatever. So I'd be up for meeting as soon as possible.
I'm trying, keep talking, I'm gonna try and look at the calendar because we can't meet when there's two other meetings here.
Right.
So
Are people willing to meet in a week?
I am totally saturated with meetings this month.
So there is no meetings here on March 28th or 29th. Those are Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And then April, it looks like the 3rd, the 4th, nothing going on here also.
So how about the 28th of March, Tuesday?
I work late on Tuesdays. But I can figure something out. 28th. I mean, is there a way we could just do it via, like,
100% Zoom?
yeah,
Mhm.
like to me, that would make more sense. I mean, we've got half the people, I would actually prefer to be on this call online too. It's just, I find it's difficult with these microphones and stuff to do it from home.
We can totally do it that way. It doesn't matter to me.
It's okay
Like,
with
what if we
me.
did an online meeting in a week, like a Zoom meeting in a week or 2 weeks or whatever people think is reasonable?
You just tell me, I'll set it up.
I'm willing to do it next Monday or the Monday after, if you want Mondays.
Yeah, for me, Mondays are fine, or,
Next Monday is definitely out for me. The following Monday, I could probably make it, 27th.
That Monday, as long as it's virtual, that Monday, the 27th, I can set it up.
Okay,
Just so you know, it's my birthday, and I may not be here.
what day
But-
was that?
Huh?
What day?
March 27th.
Oh,
I'll be coming back that day.
sorry, right, yeah,
But I can set it up no matter what, doesn't matter.
I feel like March 27th is, well, I don't know, what day is today?
Monday, the 27th is 2 weeks from today.
yep.
Yes, no, maybe?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, 3/27, I'll set up a go-to meeting, 100% go-to meeting, and then I just have to record it and stuff like that, so we have it because it's a public meeting, and I'll say that it's gonna be virtual.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think that makes sense.
6 o'clock? You want, or do you want it some other time? You want it later?
Well, for me, a little
That's my
later is
bedtime.
better. Like, yeah. Whatever, yeah, 6 o'clock's fine.
Okay,
All right, I'll set it
okay.
up.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Well, I guess we will see you, just see you different.
It's virtually.
Are you adjourning?
Is there anything else?
No, but you have to make a motion, right? Thank you.
Adjourned. Thank you.